Hello everyone, I'm Lisanne Miller with W, Cushing and Company, and in cooperation with Rug Hooking Magazine, it's Third Thursday with Lisanne. Today we are going to talk texture, my favorite subject. And don't forget, this is your latest issue of Rug Hooking Magazine. Be sure to get it. There's a really good stash buster pattern in there called Vermont Geometric, and you can take what you learned today to hook that. Okay, textures. Let's talk a little bit about textures. In the 1970s, when I learned how to rug hook, we had very limited textures. We had to go to thrift stores, secondhand stores, raid your mother's hope chest, raid your mother's suits when she retired, which was my thing, and cut up clothing. So washing of textures was important then because you had to get rid of the dry cleaning and the sizing. Also, you had to rip it so it had a straight of the grain because it was pieced together to make a garment. Well, today, rug hookers today just have a plethora of textures. I mean, it is a candy shop, and I think that's why I enjoy textures so much, because there's such a wide variety. So we're going to get started, and we're going to dissect some of these textures to show you how to use them to your best advantage. What we used to use a lot of was herringbone, and a herringbone is a V. This is a typical herringbone. This is typical black and white herringbone, typical of a garment herringbone. Okay, so when you want to see a herringbone, what you have to pay attention to is not the black, but what the V is. And the V is a cream color. And when the V is a cream color, that's what's going to show when you cut it. Now this makes great speckled chickens, great barbed wire, but doesn't make a solid background too well. So a lot of times we avoid herringbones because you have to know what that V is. It will become predominant. And how predominant it will be, we're going to take our strip sizer tool, and you can see on a 6, it's very predominant. Same with an 8, okay? You'll get most of the V. You can cut this probably down to a 6, okay? And you won't get as much. So keep your strip sizer handy to see how much of the texture you want to show. Modern day herringbones are a bit different. This is our Kelly herring. It's great Christmas green, a great Kelly Christmas. And it's not white. It is green. It is more of a mottled green, but it is more of a cream. And the herringbone is much tighter. Much tighter. So you get more of a zigzag effect, a Borgello effect, and if you cut it in an 8, you're gonna get a good cross section. And this is a fabulous wool for any of your Christmas projects. But when you have a herringbone, the thing is you may want to pair it with another type of herringbone. This is Shades of Sage, and you'll see a lot of stripes here because stripes provide you depth. This, if you have to look at your textures. Pay attention to your textures. This is striped. You can cut this wool either way. You can cut it with the stripe or against the stripe. This is not clothing. This is milled for rug hooking. So you can cut it both ways. I wouldn't cut it below a 6. And also, all of our textures are washed one time. A lot of them, if you were to wash them again, you would get a felted, like when your mother felted your cashmere sweater. So pay attention also to the density of the wool. So here we have, if we were to cut it across. So when I get a piece like this, I'm going to first open this up, and I'm going to take a look. Okay, so I can cut it this way, just like this. And yes, I am pleating it. I'm pleating it into about a size 6 or 7, you know, probably a 7, maybe even an 8. So here I know what it's going to look like. If I wrap it around like this, I can really get an overall look. So if I'm going to be hooking something, trees, mistletoe, a background, a nice ocean wave, and I need a little bit of green before I go to blue, I'm going to use the Shades of Sage. If I need a little pop, I can add this herringbone in. So Shades of Sage works very well. Now, if I want to hook down the stripe, and I'm going to caution you about cutting this way with the stripe, you do get the stripe, But when you cut, okay, you don't get the whole stripe, you get pieces, unless you're going to go to an 8.5. And a lot of times when you get pieces of the stripe, you miss the most important thing, what's in between the stripe. You'll get this color, you'll get this color, but you miss the shading in between. So you do lose some of the values of the color when you do that. So if you want the balance of all the colors, you're going to cut it this way. Love stripes. Stripes work for a multitude of things. Here is a stripe that's for a background. This is black and blue wave. Black and blue wave is a dark, you've got your blue, you've got your black. They're very similar, okay? They are very, very similar. The warp on this is black, so it is predominantly black. So when I go to do this, again, I'm going to pleat. It makes an overall antique black background. You can throw in from your stash some navy, some hunter green, some burgundy to give it a more primitive look. But as it is, it will hook a night sky, it will hook a dark background. And this is black and blue wave. I like it because the black is not all black. There's a little bit of a brown, and then this has a little, is a blue. And like I said, if you really look at your textures when you get them, then you can see their value and what you're going to use them for. One of my favorite textures is lights and shadows. I love lights and shadows for all its many uses. Lights and shadows isn't even plaid, but it is also has stripes to it. First of all, if you want to dye Santa flesh, you know, with your leftover red from my dye book, you put this with your exhaustive red, you get beautiful Santa cheeks. But you can also dissect this. This section right into here, the gray, if you're hooking architecture and landscape, makes the best windows known to man. This will also make good windows, doors, or siding on a barn. So lights and shadows has a lot of uses. Also, by itself, it hooks as a background if you just cut it. I like to cut this in a 6 or an 8 so that I get the heather tones, a little bit of the herringbone, but I also get the heather tones in there, the lights and the darks. And by doing that, I get a look like this. And if you want just a neutral background and you're going to put some really bold colors with it, this is all you need for a background. Now, how do you get more oomph out of something like this or black and blue wave? You cut some in an 8 and some in a 6. The different sizes make it look like different wools. You put them in a pile, pull and hook, and you've got a fantastic background. Another one of my favorites is Yankee Pinstripe. Yankee Pinstripe appears to be a sleeper. It is a herringbone, it has a herringbone component. But Lights and Shadows is a prismatic wool. A lot of our stripes, dune, thin mint stripe, they're prismatic. They change by what is put around them. I love Yankee Pinstripe. It can go gray in the right circumstances. It can be a sky. It can be caps on a wave. Because you have 1, 2, 3 different stripes in here, when you cut across it and hook it, if I put it by blue, it ramps up the blue. If I put it by dune, it tones itself down. Put it with green, it also blends. This is a great wool, a great stash builder. Yankee Pinstripe we're using in a lot of things. We're mixing it with Cloud 9. And Cloud 9 is an even plaid again. Even plaids, you just cut either way, it doesn't matter, but you cut it the right way, and it's the same either way. The thing with Cloud 9 that Yankee Pinstripe doesn't have are these white sections. And if you're making a sky, it'll make the clouds automatically. Or if you're doing white caps on waves, it will put the white caps on waves in. So both of these go together. They can be separate. This works really well with snow. This works as a sky for a snow scene. So very good wools together as well as separately. And again, this is dune. This makes a beautiful neutral background. You cut it in 2 different sizes, pull and hook. Thin mint stripe Goes with shades of sage. It's just a beautiful green to have in the repertoire. We don't usually get this heathered type green with a little bit of a beige green in it. There's all sorts of colors. And like I said, look at your wools in good lights and you'll see everything that comes up. We're going to go to something that people might struggle with next. This is cottage plaid. Cottage plaid has different components. You have your darker pieces, your lighter pieces. When I look at a wool, when I look at my samples that come in, I immediately decide, how would I use this? I would use this as a border. I would use this as a dividing line. It is a neutral. It has neutral colors to it. You can make certain colors pop out of it. If I was to put tea berry with it, the pinks pop out. If I was to put seaside stripe with it, the teals pop out. This is great for outlining as well when you need something to stand up a little bit. But cottage plaid, very good. And if we have time at the end, I'm going to hook a little bit of it so you can see it. Here's an old favorite, been around a long time, Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow makes itself a background, a dark background. It's got everything, all the components for an antique background. You can just cut it in different sizes. So sometimes the burgundy is larger, sometimes the navy is larger. You just use this as a background, or you can pair it with black and blue stripe. And by pairing it with black and blue stripe, it gives it more of an antique background. There goes the strip size. So here you go. You can pair the two together, and you can see by doing so, you really get a nice antique background. Sleepy Hollow. Okay, these are thin stripes. These almost, you know, a lot of people say, I don't know what I do with these. This is Cajun stripe. Cajun stripe acts like paisley, except it's not hairy like paisley. So any place you would think to use paisley, you can use Cajun stripe. Again, we do the fold test, and you can see all the colors come up. And if you use it as an outline, you use it as a vein, you use it as a pop, because then it will pick up any of these colors. So if you're using orange, great for lines in a pumpkin. If you're using greens, all of this will pop up, and especially with dyed wool, this is a great outline if you're using dyed wool. Multi-stripe. Multi-stripe is a great background if you like little flecks of color, if you want to pair it with black and blue wave. Again, as an outline, especially if you're using blues and purples, they work really, really well. You just get little hits of color, works perfectly. Tea berry. Tea berry is great if you want two tones. You have your darker taupier tone, your lighter tone. A little dark for flesh, but if it fits for the flesh, a little too taupey rose for flesh a lot of times. But if you do need two tones and this fits for flesh, these are the lines, this is the flesh. Dissect your textures to get the most out of them. Rose Cottage. I haven't had a wool like this in a long time. Really love it. It's a speckle. It's all speckled, but it is a wide herringbone when you take a look at it. The thing is, it doesn't have the white in it. It's all rose. Yes, it would make a beautiful rose. Yes, it would make nice flesh, especially if you use this as the dividing line if you needed it. It is a beautiful rose. It's just speckled, it's soft. You can ramp it up with a dyed wool. You could ramp it up with a texture, such as Fields of Poppy. These two together look really well. And you could hook a primitive flower, a primitive rooster, whatever you would like, or fine cut as well. But again, you're taking the accent in here, which is this color, and pairing them together. The three together make a beautiful, beautiful combination. All right, here we are. Love this wool. Had a skirt made like this when I was living in Bermuda. Same exact wool, cut it up for a rug. This wool has many uses. I love to use it as a border. It makes a beautiful border. You can take pieces of it if you're doing a geometric, and you can cut the different pieces out of it. If you needed just a highlight of red, you can cut that. Or you can just plain simply cut it and use it. Again, makes a great border. Cut it in different sizes, pull and hook. And we all know we hook the borders in V's or circles, and it will make an interesting border but not detract from your rug. Not detract from your rug. Cape Cod plaid. This is a prismatic wool as well. It's heather toned. It is great because whatever color, you can see I have this color here, this becomes pink. If I was to put this on the other side, you can see the purple blue come out. Great for your stash, great as a background, a medium tone background, great as a border. Also great to over dye if you're going to do dark browns, because we're kind of shy on dark brown textures. So if you want to dye it, it will also over dye very well. And that is what it looks like hooked. Really beautiful. Nice wool to use. Also, it's good to use in leaves, flowers, buildings. These can also be building windows. Lots of uses. Seaside stripe and forest of trees. Seaside stripe and forest of trees. Seaside stripe, pair it with your purples, your teals. This works really well with dyed wool. You just get hints of color, great for orientals. Old Cape Cod plaid is also great for orientals. Any of these stripes works really well in an oriental as an outline line. Love this, love to use this. You can cut it, the wider you cut it, the more green you get, or the more seaside you get. If you want to cut it with the stripes, go right ahead and hook different trees. But again, don't forget you're going to miss this middle value sometimes. But again, great wools. They are herringbones, so you will see different flecks of color. Great to use because you're not seeing white or cream, you're seeing color. Okay, Golden Goodness and Rusty Maple. These are, I'm going to hook with these so you can see these. They are even, they are striped, but they are even. You can use them to get all the values, or you can do 2 values. This would make a great tree trunk. These would make great fields, great fall trees, great ground, you know, whatever you would like, or just in a geometric. The black is what steers people away. Don't be consumed about it. When you see it hooked, you'll understand why. Then we have Vintage Red Stripe. I think this is going to become one of my new favorites. Oh yes, you can back our stockings, you know, our stockings with it. You can back your Christmas pillows with it. But you can also hook candy canes with it, Santa Clauses with it. Here's your red for his hat. Here's part of his beard. You know the colors are going to go together. They're from the same piece of wool. You can cut it across the stripe. You can cut it with the stripe. And what I like about it is it's muted enough to blend. They're not sharp delineations. A great wool, just a great wool. And if you wanted to hook it as a stripe like this, you can cut it, use your strip sizer, decide what size, and you can cut it to get the red and white stripe. Beautiful, beautiful wool. This is Red Velvet Cake, and it is red. It is a Christmas red. And you have, it is an even plaid, like even plaids, but you get the darker section into here. This is the red. So if you're doing just, say, a poppy, so this can be the bulk of the flower, this can be the outline of the flower. Good wool, good red, bright red, so it looks great. So now we're going to go to the frame. And I've cut some of these wools up, and we're going to see how they hook. So bear with us for a minute, and I'm going to get this situated, and we're going to see what we have. And yes, if you want to see how it may hook, these are all cut in a 6. you can put it in your strip sizer and show the pops of color. But the first one I'm going to start with is that cottage plaid, the one that I said would baffle people the most. So the cottage plaid is one, let me get it, it's right over here. Whee! Thank God we don't deal in China because they fall. All right, that's cottage plaid. So there is cottage plaid. So I've cut this and I'm working in this section. It's cut in a 6 and I'm just using this. Now a lot of times if you want, get a piece of 18 by 18 serged linen. We do have them for sale, and you can test your strips and keep it and make it into a scrap rug. And when you do that, you're really doing you're getting a scrap, but you're seeing how it hooks before you pull it in and out of a rug. Now this will also make a very primitive patriotic. This is the funny part about the cottage plaid. As I'm hooking it, you see the colors coming up. And in your first row, you can do your colors, then the second row match to them. So you can actually have a beautiful patriotic looking piece. Or if you just want a border on a patriotic rug that is kind of a muted or a soft red, white, and blue, cottage plaid is it. So that is cottage plaid. And that piece is being cut from here. I cut that right from this section. And as you can see, you get a little bit of oomph. Great border for a patriotic. Wonderful to use if you're doing a little primitive flag, not a big one. You get a lot out of that. This is rusty maple. This rusty maple, and I like rusty maple. Rusty maple is this, and I said that's another great wool. So with rusty maple, we're going to come over here and put in some rusty maple. And everybody worries a little bit about those black lines. And I don't think you need to worry about the black lines because you're never going to cut on them identical where they come up as hard black lines. This will make a great pumpkin, a great deco orange. It's really got a lot of different colors to it when you pull it up. Again, I am pulling it up in a 6. If I want more of this texture to show, then I would pull it up in a size 8 or 9, 8.5 or 9. So as you can see very quickly, you get that look. It would make a leaf, it would make a great pumpkin. It really would, or lines in a brighter pumpkin. Cottage rose, the beautiful speckled wool that we haven't seen in a long time. The beautiful cottage rose. Cottage rose is very soft, okay? It's a very soft, and as you can see, it is very soft. And when you do that and you hook it, the more that you see it, and it will take on an orange look, it will take on a pink look by what's around it. Cottage rose is just very soft, more of a solid wool for a texture, but really works well. And especially if you're gonna put it with other colors like the poppy stripe, etc. So there you can see that. The next one I'm gonna do is Forest of Trees, the green stripe, the dark green stripe. And when you see this, you'll get an idea, a little bit of an idea of what I mean about the herringbone coming through and really getting a pop. If you have to do a hedgerow of pines, or you just want a green background, maybe you're doing a Celtic, and you just want an overall green background, Forest of Trees is fantastic because you're just going to pull and hook, and this again is a 6. If you wanted more of the texture to show, you would cut it in an 8. And as you fill it in, you can see the different colors coming up. Lovely, lovely wool. You get a lot of colors in one piece to use. And as you can see, as it fills in very lovely. That's Forest of Trees. the big one that I want to show is vintage red stripe. Looks like a candy cane. I've cut it across the stripe. So we're going to hook it. And we're going to see what we get. And see, you'll be as surprised, I think. I know what we're going to get, but I think you'll be surprised. So here we are with that neutral, and then here we go with the red. Now, as I'm hooking this, okay, I am seeing a rhythm to the wool. And it's the same thing as when you do dyed wool. You get a rhythm to the look of the dyed wool. So much for this, so many loops for that. So I'm seeing 2 red, 3 white, 2 red, 2 white, cream, not white really. And you can see with this, so now I know I've got 1 more white, and then I want to come back. Well, I'm going to come back over here for the white. I know I don't have another one, so here's my red again. So if I want to make a candy cane or a striped piece, and this is where you can lay the wool in, as you saw, I just came back, I didn't cut it, and here I am again, and I'm making a little candy cane right away. And you know, it makes for a great background too. And as you can see, there we go. And it's making a cute little candy cane all in one, just like that. So that is the vintage red stripe. It's a soft muted palette, very, very nice. It's one way to really achieve the look of a candy cane without having to stop and go. Let's look at a herringbone. This is our Kelly green herringbone. It's going to show quite a bit of the herringbone, but I want you to see that. So here we go. Here is our Kelly green. Yes, it is very speckled, I understand, but it looks really good. But you have to understand that is the nature of the herringbone. You will see what's in that V whether you want to or not. But when you fill in, you get an overall look. It doesn't look as speckled by the second row. And then by the third row, you're really getting a lot of different colors. Also, if you're not so even with your loops, the herringbone hides your direction of hooking. So there you are with the Kelly green herringbone. The last one I'm going to show is at last 2. I have 2 more to do. This is Cloud 9. This is Cloud 9. And Cloud 9, when it's cut, all of a sudden it's not as blue. And when you cut Cloud 9 and you hook it, you do get an overall look. I think the best way to use Cloud 9 is to also pair it with Yankee Pinstripe. So you get the 2 textures, the 2 different blues, and you get a little more motion in either your sky or water. I have used this part of Cloud 9 to delineate snowbanks, to put snow on roofs of houses. But as you can see, it's very blue when you look at it. When you hook it, it does have a gray component. That's why it's always good to test your textures. And there you can see as we get into that. So this is Cloud 9. This is Cloud 9. A little bit grayer, as you can see from the other blues. The last is Cranberry Stripe. Cranberry Stripe is a tone-on-tone stripe. It's a dark and a light. And Cranberry Stripe works for an overall red look. I'm going to put it right next to Rusty Maple. And as you can see, while it's burgundy, when you put it next to Rusty Maple, it does change a little bit. And it does go with the Rusty Maple very well. There you go. We're getting some fall colors in here at the height of June. That's okay. There we go. And so this is, you get 2 tones, you pull and hook, you can see the 2 tones, and there you are. But it goes really well with Rusty Maple. This is great if you're doing paisleys, if you're doing geometrics. All of these textures can be used in any rug. It's just what colors you choose. So I hope that you have enjoyed talking about textures as much as I have. I love a good texture. I love to use a good texture. I love to pair it with dyed wool. Next month, we're going to talk about dyed wools. We're going to talk about what a spot dye is, what a dip spot is, what a dip dye is, what a swatch is, what a tourmaline style dye is, and how to use them to their best advantage, as well as how to pair them with a texture. So I hope you have a wonderful June. I hope you enjoy the sunshine in your gardens, and we'll see you in July. Bye.